Hello, it's Anna Pacheco, Santa Fe 101.com. My guest today is Dave Oshenbine. And Dave, do I have your permission to record this interview?
You do.
Oh, good. Well, you're an interesting fellow to talk to because I never knew that there was a ghost town in New Mexico named Shakespeare. And when I interviewed last week, when I interviewed the Lordsburg Chamber of Commerce, Christine Ortiz said, yeah, you definitely need to interview these folks. Are very interesting. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself. What got you to New Mexico, and what got you to want to be a part of a ghost town?
What got me out here is, my father-in-law was here, and he had married Jana Lou Hill, whose parents bought the town in 1935. And, Jana Lou passed away in 2005, and that just left my father-in-law Manuel here by himself. And he got sick in 2018. And so, we wanted to make sure that the town, the history of the town and everything kept going. So we moved here from Ohio to come out here and do this and keep this wonderful history alive.
I went to your website and I saw the beautiful photo of your mother-in-law with the horse and kind of like that really nice tribute to her. So let's talk about your in-laws first. So they came out here in 1935. Was Shakespeare already a ghost town, or were people living there? Give me that history.
You would have had a few people still renting a few of the buildings when they came out here in 1935, when they purchased it as a ghost town. They kind of just let those folks move away in their due time. The ones that were renting out the buildings, they didn't force anyone out or anything like that. There were still a couple people renting a few of the buildings.
And how large is the town itself?
I'm not exactly how sure it would have far it would have spread out, but the cemetery is about a mile away from where the actual town center which is the property that we currently own and we give tours on. But you would have had, during the first mining boom, which was about 1869, 1870 till about 1872, 1873, you'd had about 3,000 people living here during that time.
And was the town always called Shakespeare?
No, during this first mining boom, that the town was actually called Ralston City after Mr. Ralston out of the Bank of California, who financed it. It was named after him because of the financing.
And how did it get the name Shakespeare?
So it got the name Shakespeare because after the first mining boom ended, have you heard of the Diamond Swindle of 1872?
I have not.
Yes, well, that was a big deal out here during this time. And a lot of the people would go on later on and write books about this, and like Harpening and Arnold. They would go on later on and write books about this. Now, they would claim the diamonds were planted in various places throughout the country, like Colorado and California and different places. Well, the oral history here from some of the old timers, like John Evanston, the stagekeeper that was out here in 1865 after the Civil War, reopening the stagecoach line at that point. He always claimed guys like Curly Bill Brocious were hired by the mining companies, and they would patrol Lee's Peak out here and not let anyone near it. So the rumor was the diamonds were also planted here, which ended that first mining boom because people started disappearing from the town. They didn't want to be implicated in the scandal that would ensue because of the diamond swindle. And after that, the town didn't completely die when after that first mining boom. You still had the stagecoach line open because what got people stopping here is there was a water source. There was a small spring here. That's what it got initially people stopping here. But anyway, in 1879, an English mining engineer by the name of Colonel William Boyle bought up a lot of the silver mining claims here. And in order to get the taste of Ralston City out of people's mouths and convince them to be able to move back here and work in the mines, he renamed it Shakespeare after his favorite author.
Excellent. I did not know. That was interesting. So let's go back to the diamonds for a second. So we don't have diamonds as far as I know in New Mexico. Where did that whole thing originate? Like was a swindle, but where were the diamonds from? And tell me a little bit about the swindle operation there.
Well, I don't know where they got them for sure. I think they got some European diamonds and just planted them in the mountain out here and tried to make people, they'd blindfold people and take them out and convince them there were diamonds here and get people to invest in it up until it was blown up as a hoax.
Oh, so that's what it was. So they planted diamonds here to
Yes,
have people believe that there were diamonds in the
right.
mountains.
Yeah,
Excellent. I got that. So then, and so the fellow that came in later on, he changed the name of the town to because it had kind of a stigma at that point, and his favorite author was William Shakespeare.
correct.
Excellent. What an interesting, again, New Mexico is my hometown, and I'd like to think I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I didn't know this about the ghost town of Shakespeare. So let's talk a little bit about, so when your in-laws they came in 1935, did they automatically say, well, we're gonna operate this as a ghost town attraction, or how did that all come about? Because I'm trying to think back that back in 1935, I don't think tourism was like a big thing, or I'm just
Right. Well,
so.
so so Frank was a rancher, and but Rita, Frank's wife, was a school teacher previously. And when she noticed these old buildings here, and she started talking to the people living in Lordsburg, a lot of those people had originally lived up here. And she started collecting that history. And because she thought it was very important to preserve the history here. And she started her her efforts to restore the history. There was actually a historian that was doing it before her, even a lady by the name of Emma Marble Muir. Emma Marble Muir grew up here and was raised here during the mid 1800s and 1880s, mid 1880s, and a lot of the history that we got from some of the people in town. Well, Emma Muir was a big, huge contributor to that. And I'm trying to think of where I'm going with this, but
Well,
anyway,
about
that's
the history, right? Okay.
yeah. So that's how Rita started collecting a lot of the history from people like Emma Marble Muir. And as time would go on, you get more and more people adding to it, and collecting of this history. Once Jana Lou was born, and when she grew up, she became a huge part of the gathering of the history here, and it just kind of keeps continuing like that.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the cemetery. It's about a mile, you're saying, away
It's
from.
about a mile, yeah.
And so, are the people that are buried there, are they all like former miners and their families, or who's buried at the cemetery?
Well, you have lots of different people buried down there. Lordsburg uses the cemetery today as a cemetery they use, even though it's the original cemetery for Shakespeare. But you have Pony Express riders, you have a lot of the people I talk about on the tours here buried down in here. There are a couple miners there were a couple of gentlemen that were hanged in the dining room of the stage station that are buried down there. Emma Marble Muir would later on go on and donate a headstone for them, because they never actually had a headstone, but they hung both the gentlemen together, and there is one headstone for both of them because they buried them in the same grave. But there's, even John Evison, the stage keeper, Ross Woods, a gentleman that was killed in a gunfight over an egg, is also buried down there. He actually got the very first marble marker in the cemetery.
And so you take care of the upkeep of the cemetery. You make sure it's groomed and really nice.
Lordsburg takes care of the cemetery today. We don't own the cemetery. Lordsburg owns it.
Okay, but is that part of the tour though? You take them to the cemetery?
I do not.
You do not?
No, no, I do not. I mean, I give them a tour of the town here, but the cemetery, you kind of pass it on your way up here. Anyone, it's a public cemetery. Anyone can go in there. It's just a lot of the people that were from that time are buried down there from the 1800s.
Okay, and so does it look like an old cemetery? I mean, are like a lot of the markers broken, or is it pretty well kept?
Yeah, Lordsburg actually they didn't used to take care of it very well, but from what I understand, they take care of it pretty well now. It's even lit up at night. It's pretty different to see when you drive by a cemetery in the middle of the night and the whole place is lit up with lights.
Really? Why did they do that?
I honestly don't know, but it is to me, it looks like it. I don't go down there very often, but it looks like it's very well taken care of lately.
Well, that's interesting. I've never passed a cemetery at night where it's lit up. Not even the National Cemetery, I don't think. Well, that's an interesting little tidbit. How far are you from Lordsburg?
About 2 miles.
Just about 2 miles. Okay. And so I know this has been an awkward year for all of us, or like it's been a non-entity. It's been a 0 year for most because of the pandemic. But so let's talk little bit about, prior to the pandemic, and, things are starting to open up now. Tell me a little bit about what your season looks like. How busy do you get? And tell me a little bit about some of the high points of the tour.
Well, far as myself, I arrived out here in 2018, and at the end of 2018, after Manny passed. And, we just started to get things. We had to basically pick up the pieces coming here, because, Manny was in advanced stage, and he really couldn't do much anymore. He couldn't even really give the tours, and the town was only open one weekend a month. And when a couple of the former gunfight reenactors would come up and help with the tours on that weekend. But I opened it up January 1st of 2019 full time, and we started to pick up a little steam. People started to realize we were open every day, but then, I don't have to tell anyone about what happened last year. So last year was kind of a bust, and this year so far looks like it's going to be pretty good. We'll kind of see if it keeps going how it is, but the idea is to raise enough money to keep these structures going. When I give the tour, I take people through all the 5 original structures that still stand here, that are original adobe structures from the 1800s. And we also have a blacksmith shop. We have a dance studio where Jana Lou was a very interesting lady. As she grew up, she moved away and did some actressing, some dancing, and some modeling throughout the country, and came back home to help her parents in the 1960s when her father's health started to fail. But they bought an old mining building that was down in Lordsburg, but it had originally been up at the Santa Rita mine up by Silver City. And they moved it up here, and they converted it into a dance studio. And Jana Lou taught dance to local girls here for 30 years in that building. I take them in that building as well. We have a museum and gift shop and stuff, but the highlights of the buildings are what I take them through. I take people through not only the dance studio, but also we have a saloon left. We have the stage station. You have the Stratford Hotel still here, and an old Army military mail station, which was the first building that was here, was built in 1856, and an essay office, a blacksmith shop, and we even have a small powder magazine in the side of the mountain here as well.
And what about the enactment, the gunfighting? How often do you is that staged now up in
so
Shakespeare?
We would love to get those going in the future and stuff, but until we get things going a little more where we can and get more people involved, where we have enough reenactors and stuff to do that kind of stuff. We don't currently do them at this time, but we would love to do them in the future.
Okay. And how many tours a day do you do?
Right.
Say in the average, like in the summer, like 2019, when it was relatively busy, how often do you do the tours? How many days a week do you do the tours?
Right now, we're open 7 days a week as long as I'm here. So, if someone's going to come to take a tour, it's always recommended they call to make sure I'm here. But there are times, sometimes I only give 1 or 2 tours a day, but and it's kind of like I just do them when people show up. And if I'm already given a tour, if you'd show up and I'm already halfway through a tour, my wife would grab you and bring you out to where we're at. And I would take you around. You'd continue on with the tour as normal. And then I would take you around so you get the whole tour, you get everything you missed. So we tie everything together so you get to see everything. But normally I give about anywhere from usually 2 to 4 tours a day. And the tours, so that's really all I can get in, because the tours take about an hour and a half to 2 hours just for me to take you around and give you all the history and take you through all the buildings and give you a couple stories of some of the events that happened here and stuff along those lines.
Wow, that's very ambitious. If you can do 4 of those a day, that's a long day for you. So what are some of the?
It makes it a very long day.
I bet you it does. So what are some of the highlights? Can you tell me a little bit? If somebody's watching this, they might be interested in taking the tour. Whatever happened to the Ralston fellow, the way that it was named after that banker? Whatever happened to him?
William Ralston, well, it just depends on who you want to believe with Mr. Ralston, but he either was, he either, somebody either pushed him, I can't even remember for sure what exactly happened to him, but he drowned. Whether he was killed and he drowned or whether it was an accidental drowning, I don't know. But yeah, Mr. Ralston, after all this was blown up, he died.
And then is he one of the ghosts that's around, or do you ever, what ghosts do you think are
Well,
lingering around your ghost town?
well, well, the ghosts, I mean, we have a few ghost stories here. And, I get paranormal people out here with all their little pieces of equipment and doing some paranormal research. And they swear there are ghosts here. Like there's a ghost, supposedly a ghost of a lady that, had came here looking for looking for a gentleman. And she found out that he had went down into Mexico and got himself killed somehow. And she ended up leaving the hotel, leaving all her belongings there. And she supposedly walks down the street and walks into the side of the hotel at times. I haven't physically seen her, but a lot of things. It's a very interesting story. There's a couple of miners that were killed here during the third mining boom, and supposedly they walk around looking for their cash because they were killed after they actually, a couple of the ne'er-do-wells got them involved in a card game. The miners took the ne'er-do-wells money. The ne'er-do-wells took exception to that and ran the miners out the back of the building and gunned them both down. And supposedly you can still see the ghosts of those two gentlemen wandering around here. Let's see.
And what time of day do you think, I mean, if, like the paranormal people, like when do ghosts are they around all the time, or when do you think they come out?
Well, if they're here, they're here probably all the time. if they're ghosts. I haven't physically seen anything myself, to be truthful with you. It's interesting stuff. You do have people that say they have had experiences here. I, however, have not. I get asked sometimes if I'm scared to be here with the ghosts that are in here, this town being so old. And my kind of comment to that is, well, why would they want to scare me away? I'm the one keeping their history alive.
Well, good for you. Good for you. So tell me, what's it like? So you moved out here. What was it like you were in Ohio, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was your former career?
I worked at a nameplate company for 30 years.
What city in Ohio were you located?
Well, I was living in Ravenna and I was working in Solon, Ohio when I came out here for a company called Etched Metal Company.
And so was that a relatively big town or city that you were living in?
Well, it's over by Kent State University. So, I mean, it wasn't like living in Cleveland, but you're still quite more populous than it is out here.
Well, that's what my next question is like. So what's it like to be, you and your wife are the only living souls in a ghost town? Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what's it like?
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's probably really quiet.
Oh, well, it is really quiet at night, and it's peaceful. I kind of enjoy it out here with all the chaos that's been going on in the country over the last year. It kind of made me glad I was out here not having to deal with any of that stuff.
Oh, good. And is at the ghost town, are there any like tributes or anything to William Shakespeare, or is there any note of that in your talks about William Shakespeare?
No, not really. I mean, it was just named Shakespeare after Mr. Boyle. I mean, because of that was Mr. Boyle's favorite author, and outside of that, I guess it's a tribute enough that the town's named after him.
Well, I think that's so cool.
Outside of that, actually, the main street of the town was, after he renamed it Shakespeare, the main street of the town was renamed Avon Avenue, and the hotel was renamed the Stratford at that time.
Excellent. I like that. Well, I guess that.
Go ahead, sir. No, that's just, I mean, I guess that is kind of a tribute to the Shakespeare as well. If you rename the street Avon Avenue and this hotel, the Stratford.
Well, I just think it's so cool that in the middle of a ghost town way out in southwestern New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere for the most part, it's named after William Shakespeare. I mean, I wonder how many people out in the UK, would know that, but interesting stuff for sure. Well, we're at the end of the interview. I want to thank you. I really hope that this, the next tour, this tourist season, it's starting to pick up here in Santa Fe a little bit. And I give tours, I give history tours here. I'm really hoping that things, start to pick up in your area. And if I make it down, I've been through Lordsburg before on my way to Tucson, but now I know I have a reason to stop and go check out your ghost town.
We're 2 miles south on exit. If you get off at exit 22 on Route 10, we're 2 miles south.
Well, we'll make a note of that, and when I post this video, we'll make sure to put all that those pertinent details. I want to thank you again, Dave from Shakespeare, the ghost town in southwestern New Mexico. Thank you.
Well, thank you.